does God exist? Now, am I going to be able to convince you at the end of these next 30 minutes that God really exists? You know what? I can never do that. I can say what I know, and you can believe what you want to believe. I can tell you what I've experienced, but you can choose what you want to experience. So this evening, what I'm trying to do here is not to convince you that God exists, but I'm trying to make things more clear in your power of reasoning and give you some sort of evidence that will help you to believe that God does exist. You know, Socrates once said, we should follow the arguments where it leads. All right, we should follow the arguments where it leads. And this book called the Bible is full of arguments that leads us to the power and the presence of God. So what do you choose to follow this evening? Genesis chapter 1, it starts like this. This is the first book in the Bible. And this is the first two verses in the Bible. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Now notice that God says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So that means God already existed before He created. The phone you have in your hand right now, or the laptop that you have right now, did it suddenly pop out of thin air? I don't think so. Somebody created it. Somebody made it. Somebody went into the details of making it. And now you have the final product. So there was a creator in order to have a created thing. We should follow the evidence of Socrates when it comes to the question, does God exist? All right? Because I said, this book is full of evidence and arguments that leads us to the truth, that leads us to believe that God exists. So this evening I'm going to talk about 5 proofs that God exists. Okay, 5 proofs that God exists. If you're taking down notes, you can do that. The first thing, the universe must have a cause. See this pulpit that I keep my Bible and my notebook and all that, and I'm speaking. There is a cause for this pulpit. Somebody didn't think, it's nice to make something like this, no? And then made it. And when somebody asked them, why do you make this? I don't know, I just made it. What can you use it for? I don't know what you can use it for. This mic. Somebody created a mic. Why do you create the mic? I don't know, I just got this idea, so I made something like this. So do you know what you need to do with it? I don't know, I just got the idea, so I made it. See, God was not like that. God had a cause for this universe. And when you look at the universe, see if you notice, I'm preaching with the world map right behind me. See, when you look at this world, it's just a little bit of the cause and the reason that God created the universe. It's bigger, greater, much more than we can ever imagine. Scientists are still trying to figure out the galaxies. God knows it all. Scientists are still trying to figure out how many stars are there. God knows it all. Scientists are still trying to figure out, NASA is still trying to figure out if there is life on Mars. God knows there is no life on Mars. Scientists say that the world came into existence out of nothing. The universe is a material thing. So that means it came out of something material. See, this book that I have, it's a material. It came out of something that was materialistic. And so in the same way, when God created this world, He created with a cause. He did not just say, let there be light. And it's like, oh, what are we going to do with the light? He didn't say, let there be the earth and the water separated from the water. And now what are we going to do with this? He didn't create the animals and the birds and the fish in the sea and say, now what are we going to do with this? He had a cause, He had a reason. See, without light, this world will not survive. If the earth, you know that the earth is at a certain angle, right? That's why we call it 24/7. That's why we have a thing called a leap year every 4 years. All right? Because there's a certain angle that the world is placed in. All right? I'm not quite sure exactly how much it is. If you know how much it is, you can type it in there. All right? How many degrees it is at. Okay? All right? Yeah, you can tell me that. Okay? But one thing I know for sure is that if it tilts a bit more, it's going to be destroyed. So God had a purpose for this universe. Not just the world, but the universe. See, if we were closer to the sun, the earth was closer to the sun, will burn. 23.5 degrees. The angle of the earth, 23.5. If it goes to 23.6, boom, we are gone. That's how much precisely God created the earth. Now, how many of you heard of the Big Bang Theory? If you heard of the Big Bang Theory, give me a raise of hands. Okay, Big Bang Theory. Something big, banged, and then there was a theory. Okay? And the theory is that this big thing suddenly banged, and the earth was placed as the third planet from the sun at an angle of 23.5 degrees. Wow. Everybody say, wow. You can type in there, wow. All right. So now, according to scientists, there was nothing, right? There was nothing. Yeah? Am I right? Yes or no? If the scientist said there was something, say no. If I'm right, say yes. If I'm wrong, say no. It's like I confuse you all, right? Okay. Scientists said there's nothing. And suddenly, out of nothing, came something called the Big Bang Theory. Now there's these two tomatoes. And I'll get this back a little because otherwise it's going to be on my Bible. So now, just imagine these two tomatoes meeting like this. Okay? And then, did anything happen? What do you think if these two tomatoes crash or meet each other at the greatest speed that it can ever meet each other at. With the greatest force it can meet each other at. Do you think another tomato is going to be created? You're laughing. But that's what 95% of the world believes. Do you think another tomato is going to be created? Or do you think an apple will be created? Or a strawberry? Or a mango? Or a monkey? What do you think? Whatever you are thinking, type it in there. What is going to happen when these two tomatoes meet at an extreme pace? All right, so let's see what happens, okay? When two tomatoes meet. Oh, my Bible! So, yeah, this tomato is a bit rotten anyway. Okay, so nothing happened. It just got squashed. And my Bible got tomato juice on it. My notebook got tomato juice on it. My hands got tomato juice on it. And the church floor has tomato juice on it. And my hands, wait, let me clean my hands, okay? Before I touch that mic. Okay. I got tomato sauce on my lips. All right. And so, the devil wants you to believe, just metaphorically, okay? Like those two tomatoes, something came out of nothing. Suddenly, two tomatoes come into being, and these tomatoes meet, and this universe is created. Everybody say, wow. Isn't that amazing? A design has to have a creator. Therefore, the question is, who is the creator of this material earth, galaxy, and the universe? Who is the material creator? There has to be a creator. Scientists say the idea of nothing had a supernatural experience. Sorry. Scientists said that there was nothing. But we believe that this nothing did not create anything. But the power of a supernatural God created this earth. The universe had a beginning, and it was not a natural cause, but it was a supernatural cause. Now, like I said, at the end of this time, I'm not be able to convince you 100% that God exists. But I'm going to tell you proof that God exists. Start getting you thinking on the lines that, wow, there's a possibility that God really does exist. The second proof. A design demands a designer. A design demands a designer. Look at the world around you. It is so beautifully designed. I mean, I love driving up to New Aurelia because I'm a very scenic guy. And I just love driving up those mountains, looking at creation and just admiring God's creation. I mean, how precisely God created all this. You know, I had the privilege of going to England a couple of years ago. And we were driving down these country roads. And you just look outside, just acres and acres and acres of beauty. You know, trees are colored in different colors. I'm wondering, like, God, seriously? You know, where I live, there's a big bo tree right outside my door. When I look out, I see this big bo tree. And on this big bo tree, there is a family of kahakurullas. I don't know if they are called yellow birds, but I know they are called kahakurullas. Okay? And I look at those cargo rollers. They come there every morning, okay? I look at them and I'm wondering, man, that yellow on those birds, I've never seen anywhere. Not on a single design, not on a single picture, not on a single painting. That yellow is so beautiful. You know, I have a cat, a Persian cat. It's called a calico for the design it has. Okay? If you don't know what a calico is, you can just Google it. When I look at this cat, I'm wondering, God, how on earth did you do this? Because, I mean, the colors are so precisely divided. You know, his paws, there's his back paw, one back paw it's black on one toe, and then he has white fur on the others. All right? And underneath the fur, the one that is black, his toe is black. Where the fur is white, his toes are pink. It's so beautiful. And I'm wondering, like, God, seriously? That's just a little bit. I can go on and on and on. Look at the world around you. When you look at the world around you, can you just imagine that two tomatoes came together at a high velocity with great pressure and created all this? Look at yourself in the mirror. Did two tomatoes do this to me? The human body is one of the most complex designs to be searched up to date. Nobody has been able to design a human being. They can clone a human being. They're doing research to clone human beings. But they can never create. Because there is only one creator. There's only one creator. Genesis chapter 1 talks about how God designs the world beautifully. See, only the designer will know the details of the design, right? Okay? If you take a phone, or let's take an Apple. Okay? Let's take an Apple phone. If you take an Apple phone, the designer, the developer of that phone, the person who designed it, knows the nitty-gritty, the details of the phone. You might be a scholar on Apple products, but there are things that you don't know that the designer knows. Why do I say that? How do I say that from the Bible? See, they figured out that the earth was circular just a couple of centuries ago. But in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, it says that the Lord is seated on the circle of the earth. All right. In Jonah chapter 2, verse 6, it talks about the mountains under the sea. You know, if you take, I don't know, I think it's Mount Pico or something like that. Okay? It's under the sea. If it was above, what do you call, the surface of the earth, all right, it would be taller than Mount Everest. Okay? And so, see, Jonah in Jonah chapter 2, verse 6, talks about the mountains under the sea. And that was searched just a few, I don't know how many years ago. All right? Maybe a couple of centuries ago. See, people thought, in ancient Greek history, people thought that the earth was flat. Right? You go and then suddenly it ends and you fall. Like an infinity pool. All right? They thought the earth was circular. The earth was a flat surface and square. But the Lord the designer knew the details of the design. In Leviticus chapter 17, verse 11, it says that life is in the blood. Scientists found that just a few, probably years ago. Medical science was, would have figured it out a couple, maybe a century ago. All right? Life is in the blood was in the Bible. In Job chapter 26, verse 7, it talks about gravity. In Job chapter 26, verse 8, it talks about the water stored up in the clouds. Okay? You know the water cycle, right? Yeah? How many of you know the water cycle? What happens? Water evaporates, goes and gets stuck in the clouds. Okay? And then the clouds get heavy and it rains. That's the water cycle, right? See, the designer knew the details of the design. But people had to figure it out. So do you think that this Big Bang created all these infinite details about the world? What do you think? Third thing, life demands a life giver. Okay, life demands a life giver. See, there is something called the law of biogenesis. In this material, natural world, it comes from previously existing life of its own kind. Scientists say this, okay? That life comes from something existing of its own kind. Now, guess who said that? If you have your Bibles, turn to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. God created man in his own image. God created man in his own image. Scientists figured that out some years ago. And they said, life comes to existence out of something of its own kind. And here God gave us life. He breathed life into Adam and Eve. He said, I have made them in my own image. Wow. Science cannot prove that life can come forth from anything that does not exist. Science still cannot prove, how much ever they try to prove, that life can come forth from nothing. It has never been proved. It has not been proved. And it will never be proved. Because man is not the designer. God is the designer. And so therefore God knows the details of the design. So life demands a life giver. Fourth point, or the fourth proof. Moral law demands a moral law giver. Moral law demands a moral law giver. If we say that something is wrong, you look at something and you say, this is wrong. You see somebody stealing somebody's money, you look at it and you automatically know there's something wrong about it. You see somebody stabbing somebody, you automatically know that there's something wrong with it. You see somebody trying to commit suicide, you automatically know that there's something wrong with it. Yeah? Who gave you these moral values? Did somebody spoon feed you? Like your mothers and fathers fed you when you were a baby? Anybody fed moral values? No, right? See, Adam and Eve, when they sinned in the garden, they hid from God. And God came to them and said, hey, Adam, hey, Eve, why are you guys hiding from me? God knew why they were hiding. But God asked them the question, why are you hiding? Now, how did they know that they did something wrong? Because a moral God with moral values created a being with moral values. See, God, the life giver, created something that was His own. So whatever was installed in God was installed in man. That's why when Adam and Eve sinned, they knew they messed up. They hid from God. They said, we are naked, that's why we are hiding from you. God said, who said you are naked? There was moral values inside of them because there was a moral God who created them. God gives us a standard of moral values. Before any law was legislated, before any parliament came to being, before any monarch or hierarchy or king or queen or whoever came to being, God gave mankind a moral value standard. You shall not have other gods besides me. Do not worship idols. Do not use my name in vain. Keep the Sabbath holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. The Bible says you shall not, there's another version that says you shall not covet another man's wife or your neighbor's possession. See, God already gave a moral standard. So when you and I were born, see, God knew that moral standard was broken when Adam and Eve sinned. And that's why He had to reinstall it on a tablet, on stone. He had to reinstall and tell these guys, tell the Israelites, okay, these are the values that I created you with. Because of sin, you have walked away from these values. But here are these values. Walk in them. We need a creator with values in order to install these values within us. Is this good? Are you learning something? Are you getting something? If you are, put a thumbs up. Put a heart emoji. All right. What's the time? All right. 5 minutes more. Fifth proof. A free will and human reasoning. A free will and human reasoning. How many of you reason out every day in life? How many of you appreciate the fact that you have a free will? Have you seen a robot? Does the robot have the power to reason? When the robot is given a command, go wash the dishes, can it give reasons as to why it wouldn't wash the dishes? I didn't eat with that plate, no. David no kept the plate in the sink. Why should I wash it? Just speaking on you guys, okay? Can the robot do that? But you have the power to do that. God gave you the power even to reason if He exists or not. God gave you the free will to choose to believe if He exists or not. If you were created with control, you wouldn't have this power. This power can either make you or it can break you. It broke Adam and Eve at the garden. Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animals the Lord had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really tell you, you must not eat from this tree?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may not eat fruit from the tree in the garden." But did God say that? You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. And you must not touch it, or you will die. You will not surely die, the serpent said to the woman. For God knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. See, the world wants to be like God. But the world can never be God. Because He is the Creator. Creation can never be greater than the Creator. Created can never be greater than the Creator. There was an atheist called Anthony Flew who wrote a book to prove that God does not exist. But later on in his life, he authored a book that says, there is a God. What changed his mind? He said, when I came to realize the existence of a God, it was not a surprise, because we must follow the argument where it leads. He said, we must follow the argument where it leads. And his argument to prove that God did not exist was the very argument that proved that God does exist. So this evening, I have given you some sort of evidence that God does exist. Like I said at the beginning, it is your choice to believe. I choose to believe that God does exist. I choose to believe the evidence in this book, because this book has done so much of great things for my life. It has set me free. It has brought me out of places that man would never be able to bring me out. It has taught me things about life that man would never be able to teach me. It has given me hope when I have been in the most hopeless situations. It has spoken into my life when there was nobody to speak into my life. So I choose to believe the evidence. Where will you let the evidence lead you? Will you let the evidence lead you to believe that God exists? Will you let the evidence lead you to believe that God does exist?